Hey guys, welcome to Flowcast, a podcast by Flowout where we chat with successful entrepreneurs, freelancers, and other amazing professionals that are crushing it in their game. We are Flowing Out and we'll be your host on this audio journey. In this week's episode, we'll host Colleen Schnettler, a startup founder and Ruby on Rails developer currently building HelloQuery in public. Without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation.
Hi, Colleen. It's so nice that you managed to join us today. How are you?
Great. I am really happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, anytime. So to kick it off, I will just ask you, how would your family and friends describe you?
I would like to think that they would describe me as tenacious. That might be a little generous. It might be more persistent, but yeah, that's what I would like to think.
Okay, nice. And so far, you've already built a few projects of your own or with someone else. But can you tell us a bit about your background before you started working on those projects and being a startup founder?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a self-taught Ruby on Rails developer. And my goal learning to code was always to have a business. That was always the end goal for me. I learned to code with that specific purpose in mind. But of course, you can't just wake up one day and learn to code in a week and start a business. That's not really practical or realistic, I would say. And so I spent time learning to code. I got a job as a Ruby on Rails developer. I then was proficient enough to quit that job and become a full-time consultant to pay the bills. And the nice thing about consulting, it gives you a little more freedom. And so as a consultant, once I was comfortable in that role and had kind of built up to a comfortable salary, I was able to start tinkering with side projects. And so that's how I got started.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a nice way of tackling the issue, I guess. So how did you learn to code actually? Was it like starting with videos? Was it reading books? Mixture of both?
So I learned to code. I started back in, I don't know, 2012, 2013. So back then, Treehouse, do you guys remember that? Treehouse was one of those learning academies and it was free. And then the LinkedIn one, there was one in LinkedIn. All this stuff was free because this was before boot camps were a big deal. And so there were all of these free resources online. And even like some of Udemy, I bought a course on Udemy. I mean, it was $50. So it wasn't free, but it was pretty cheap. There was the Learn Ruby on Rails book, which is Michael Hartle's book, which is still today, 10 years later, you know, the seminal work, I would say, on learning Ruby on Rails. That was free. So fortunately, I was in a position where I had a lot of free resources. The challenge when you have so many free resources, I think, is just building the plan of study. And that in and of itself can be very tricky because if you don't have a community of developers, just figuring out which direction to go, what do you do first? What do you do next? How many times do you have to make a to-do list? Things like that can be a bit of a challenge, but that is how I got started.
Yeah, we all start somewhere, and if we got it down correctly, simple file upload was one of your first projects. How did you come up with the idea?
Yes, you did get it correct. So well done. So what happened is, as an independent consultant, what was happening was I was getting hired by company after company, and they all need file uploading. And this is just such a critical thing to a web application. I think first it was no, it wasn't real estate. First it was a events company. So they had their entire value prop was you could add photos of your event. And then it was a real estate company, which is, again, is a very file heavy kind of application. And the crazy thing is I was building these file uploaders over and over and over, and there just wasn't a great off-the-shelf solution because with the off-the-shelf solutions, we had to customize it every time. And by then it's more work than it's worth, right? You're like, I'm just going to build it myself. And so I kept running into this. And I don't know if are you guys familiar with Heroku as a deployment platform?
Oh, yeah,
No, okay.
yeah, a little bit, but yeah.
Okay, so Heroku is kind of, and this was before, now they charge a small fee, but back then it was only a couple of years ago, but Heroku was completely free. And so Heroku was the easiest way to deploy a Ruby on Rails application. It's literally git push Heroku. I mean, it's brilliant. But Heroku has an ephemeral file system. What that means is if you don't store your files somewhere else, they disappear because they restart your dynos every, I don't know, 24 hours, depending on which plan you are. So what was happening to people who didn't know this is they would have their users upload files and then the dynos would restart and they lose all the files because the files were stored in this local storage that gets thrown away every time the dynos restart. So Heroku is a great place for a file uploader because the only way to use it is to set up S3 or your storage of choice. And so I took these two things. Fact one, ephemeral file system. Fact two, people keep asking me to make this file uploader. And I was like, oh, maybe this is a nice little manageable, scopable project that I can build and put in the Heroku App Store.
I see. And what was your marketing strategy first? Did you do it for your clients?
I did. The very first user was a client I was working for, which was great because I was able to, it saved them a ton of money. And I was able to see it working in a real world application and kind of get some of the kinks out of what a high traffic website would deal with.
How did you then continue this journey of user acquisition? Was it more of like organic growth, word of mouth? Did you actually do a marketing strategic approach to this?
No, I didn't do anything strategic. I didn't know. I think what's so hard about starting a business, I think, as a developer is we focus so much on product because product feels like the whole thing. And then you realize later, after you've built the product, that marketing is really the whole thing and distribution is really how you build a business. But, I think it's a joke, but it's also true. First-time founders focus on product. Second-time founders focus on distribution. I was fortunate because I put it in the Heroku add-on store and there's a very high bar to get into it's not like the Apple App Store where they just let anyone in. Like there's a very high bar to get in. So there aren't that many apps. So the competition was low and Heroku handles the billing, which means the customer does not have to independently sign up for my service and enter their credit card. They can literally one-click install it from Heroku. So as a first-time founder, starting in a marketplace was just a great place to start.
I see. Can you brief us on what's happening with the project now? You considered selling it? Did you go through with that?
I did not. So I considered selling it. It's doing pretty well. It's growing. It's very low maintenance. I am not going to sell it this year. I think I'm going to let it continue to grow. I'd like to be able to sell it for enough money to give me a significant runway for my next project. Because like I said, it's pretty low maintenance and selling it. The thing about selling it is things I didn't know, right? So something you don't know if you're just on Twitter is you think, oh, I'm going to sell from a 3 to 5 multiple for SaaS, but that's trailing 12 months. So if right now my MRR is 2,500, it's not 4 times 2,500 times 12, right? It's trailing 12 months. And so the longer, when you have a product that is growing, the longer it seems to me, again, I haven't actually sold anything before, the growth, like getting that, I need 12 months of it being at 2,500 to sell it for what I want. And selling it's kind of a pain, honestly. Like there's a fair amount of due diligence and things like that. And so for now, I am just maintaining it, putting in a little bit of work and keeping it going.
Yeah, that's a pretty nice strategy. But yeah, I guess when you start building it, you don't even realize when you come to the point of selling or trying to sell what all needs to be done to actually go through it.
Yeah. Even some of the numbers, that were needed, I didn't even know what they were. Like I had to look them up. Like how much am I paying in hosting cost? I have no idea. So stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty nice. But I wanted to talk about more about your newest project. So HelloQuery, right? First of all, did you start it again coming from your own problems? Is there not a similar solution on the market? How did you come up with the idea for it?
Yes, I would love to talk about this. So HelloQuery is a service that it's basically internal reporting for teams, and eventually it will grow into internal reporting for customers. But yes, it grew out of a personal pain point, and I have a co-founder for this project, for this company, and he worked at a tax property company, and he was finding that over and over again, the people who didn't know how to write SQL were needing specific reports. So he, as a developer, was trying to do his job, and he was just constantly interrupted with people needing data. And there's a lot of businesses and people in this world that's their job, right? Data is everywhere and everyone needs access to it. And when it's locked up in your database, it can really be a problem.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like nice problem solver, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was going to say, we got some early traction with that idea. And so that is really the pain point we're trying to solve. Is it's reporting, but it's reporting with a differentiating feature where basically what happens is you as a developer write a SQL query. You can save that query with a name like top paying customers. And then Jack in accounting or finance or whomever can add additional filters on top of that. So he can say top paying customers who purchased something in the last week, and then schedule those reports to be delivered on a schedule.
Okay. And what stage are you at right now of the company?
Yeah, this is a great question. We are very early. So we are actually looking to, I'm doing tons of customer discovery right now. So if you have this problem, please reach out to me. We had a product. This is an interesting topic. So we had a product that was a drop-in query builder solving the same problem, but it was native to your application. And we found that we were solving the correct problem, but the packaging wasn't correct, like the positioning of the product. And so we're doing this, we're in the middle of this pivot. We used to call the product, our old company, same company, but it was called Hammerstone. Now we're calling it HelloQuery. And this product is going to be a standalone SaaS. So it's going to be an application, that lives on the internet, unlike the last product.
Okay. And what about some of the challenges at the beginning of your startup journey? Did you face any, or how did you overcome them?
Which journey? I guess it's all one journey, right?
Yeah. For example, like pivoting from Hammerstone to HelloQuery, maybe the issues you're facing now, if there are any, getting some traction, users, something like that.
That's a good question. So with Hammerstone, we got a really big customer really quickly. And it turns out that was a little bit of a false demand signal, because they were in a very specific stage of their life cycle. And the thing with the Hammerstone product is we had to catch people at the very beginning of their life cycle. And most large companies aren't rebuilding their app from the ground up ever. And so to get this one client was amazing, and it funded the development and it did so many great things for us. But we realized that it didn't mean that other people were going to be able to purchase and integrate this product. So taking this initial idea, now we do have a subset of customers that we can lean on, but I mean, starting over is hard. I think anyone would say that when you're back at the beginning and you're just doing cold outreach and customer discovery and trying to build the right thing in a crowded market, because this is a very crowded market. There's, who knows, right? Like there's so many roadblocks, there's so many obstacles. So I think at this stage, it's just not giving up.
Yeah, it's definitely hard acquiring customers, just getting, the opinion, just researching the markets, their needs. And I feel like you're doing a great job being out there on Twitter, on other channels. Is that like a conscious decisions, or are you just, like sharing your thoughts and views and are doing it because of that?
So I used to be on Twitter, like back when I was learning to code. Twitter is what helped me learn to code because I did 100 days of code and I would like post something every day. And then I was really during the simple file upload journey and the early Hammerstone days, I was super into Twitter. And then when Elon bought Twitter, everything got weird with my Twitter feed. So I just got off Twitter for a while. But everything seems to have stabilized now. So I'm back on. I think if you do Twitter right, like if you do it with the right people and you don't follow, the demoralizing accounts, I find it to be quite joyful. Like I really enjoy it. And it drives a lot of traffic to our site. And most of our customers at this stage have come from Twitter.
Do you use any other channels to build in public and, communicate the news about your journey and your company?
Yes. So my co-founder and I have a podcast, which was called hammerstone.dev, but I guess we're going to rebrand it to HelloQuery. And that's kind of one of those, what do they call them? Like ride along podcasts where we just talk about our weekly struggles with building the business. So those are the two channels we use the most.
Do you find any major benefits in, sharing your journey, building in public, and maybe also some, challenges or issues with that?
I think it's been great. People find us, they want to support us, but they also, have the problem. So it feels like our early subset of customers are coming to us because they have this problem and they need it solved, and they'd rather come to us than, Microsoft BI, where they'll never get support and no one will ever help them, right? And so I know there's some debate about, is building in public good? Is it not good? Should I do it? Man, unless you're making $1 million a year, I think it's good. Like, I think it is net positive. So ask me in a couple of years when I'm hopefully making $1 million a year. But I think when you're early, it's totally worth it.
What's your policy then on sharing? Is it just, all out? Do you feel like there can be too much to share?
I think sharing MRR is such a weird vanity thing. And in the early days of simple file upload, I breathlessly reported my MRR every week, right? And it's fun and people love that. But also I think it maybe puts your focus on the wrong thing, because if you're focused solely on your MRR, you don't really have a ton of control over that. I'm a believer that you have control over the process. You have control over the things you do. So instead of saying, I want to hit XYZ MRR, it's, I am going to do these things and we are going to see, I can't force people to sign up, but I can put these structures in place and these processes in place that should move my business forward. And I think the sharing of the MRR, and you feel bad when other people, you're like, I'm at 2K, and everyone else is like, I'm at 20K. And you're like, oh man, I suck at this. So I don't think with Hammerstone, we're going to be sharing, with HelloQuery, we're not going to be sharing specific numbers this time.
Yeah. And do you see Twitter more of a branding thing, or is it also where majority of your customers come from? Because sometimes I feel like customer acquisition just works in mysterious ways. For example, for us, cold emailing has really been a successful strategy, while, we might not get as many customers from maybe LinkedIn or Twitter.
So I'm sorry, what was the specific question?
Yeah, how does it work for you? Is it also that, since you're very active on Twitter, is this also where your customers come from, or is it any other channels that, you're doing your acquisitions with?
I'd love to hear about how cold emailing works for you, because I am just getting into cold emailing, and so far I'm not winning at it. Like it's not going great. So for us, it's been Twitter, lots of response at cold outreach on LinkedIn, but no customers yet. So that's kind of where we are with that.
I see. I feel like it's different for everyone, different businesses, different customers, also different tactics on how to approach it. But I feel like the common point is that Twitter is very useful for customer feedback. How do you value that? Do you, actively seek it out? Do you just get it back organically?
We get a lot of feedback from a lot of people. And I think that is because both my co-founder and I are pretty public. Like, we're both active on Twitter. We have the podcast. What we need is, to your point, we get just a lot of general feedback, people's ideas about what they think we should do with the business, which we appreciate. I love getting feedback. I love hearing it. Specific customer feedback is actually what we need more of. So people who are actually going to buy the product, not a person who's just following our journey because they like us. And right now we're at that stage where I'm getting anyone who DMs me on Twitter, like if they're open to doing a call, I always prefer to get on a call just to figure out like where are the real pain points and how is your solution that you're using right now not leveling up to what you need.
Yeah, that's a great way of actually, making real connections. Because sometimes I think it's the differentiation that you can actually convert someone instead of just being there trying to promote. But I want to circle back to cold emailing because I would have some smaller advice for you.
Yeah.
It's all in personalization. I think that's a really important part. Nailing that subject line, actually what worked for us is pretty surprising, but if you just put their name out there, hey Gal, hey Colleen, that works like 50% more opens than usual. And also just trying to be short as possible, because nobody likes to read long emails, I guess. So that would be 2 points.
So when you send those cold emails, do you find like personal details from their LinkedIn? Like how are you finding the people? Are you using a service?
Yeah, it's usually outsourcing, but the personalization part actually comes from just the first name and the pain points they have. But if you make that intro right, you can then schedule a call and get to know them better and so on. But yeah, so I just want to talk about work-life balance because I went through your feed and stuff like that. You're like running a lot of successful projects, I guess, full-time, including co-hosting a podcast. But you're also a mom of 3, if I got it right.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
So just the general question, how do you manage your work-life balance?
Yeah, I don't know if work-life balance is really a thing. I think that's a lie. It's busy. It's a lot. I mean, I think when you have, I do have a spouse, so that helps. But we both have high intensity careers. And so I think managing that, it's a lot. My kids are elementary age, so they're a little bit older, so they're not home all day. They're in school, they have activities. But what we've tried to do is, so we obviously have our work day, and then I take 1 to 2 nights a week, depending on how busy it is. And those are my nights that I'm working. And setting that aside, like for us, it's Wednesdays usually for me, setting that aside in advance, like on the calendar, so everyone knows it's going to happen, helps a lot. So we're in a position where I can work, go cook dinner, help get the kids to bed, they're in bed, and then come back to my home office and work for a couple hours. And so I think managing, founders have a propensity to burn out. They have a propensity to destroy their relationships. So making sure we prioritize our family, the kids, when we're with the kids, not scrolling on our phone or being on Twitter, like from 5 to 7 in our house, we put the phones in what we call phone jail. So we have that dedicated time with them. And what else? Yeah. And I think, and knowing what I need to stay healthy. So I prioritize workout. So I work out, early in the morning. Because it's a marathon. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is we see things on the internet and we see, that guy, one of the AI guys who ships every day and his products at who knows what is making a ton of money. And we see that and we're like, that guy went from 0 to 20K MRR in 1 month. Like, wow, that's not going to happen for most of us. Like, that's just not how businesses are built. And so I think remembering that it's a marathon, physical, mental, relationship health is really important, and figuring out how to prioritize those while still giving yourself the time and like mental space you need to build the business.
Okay, yeah, love your time management. It's a really nice concept you have. But what would your typical day look like if there's a typical day?
Sure. Well, today is what, Wednesday? So got up at 6. I went to the gym, work out from 6:30 to 7, come in, have breakfast, take a shower, all that good stuff. Sat down here about 8:15, checked my email, sat down with you guys at 9. I'll work here until 5. I will make dinner. Kids come home around 5:15, make dinner. We do homework. We do all that stuff. They have quiet reading time from 7 to 8. So usually I check my email so I feel like this is a super hack, guys. Don't check your email. It's my new favorite thing. Don't check your email all day, because I think a big thing we all struggle with, it's that whole deep work concept, whereas if every 25, 30 minutes you're checking your email, like, oh, this thing's kind of important, or this thing's kind of important. So I don't check my email during the day, which so far is working out okay. We'll see if it continues to work out. But so when the kids do quiet reading from 7 to 8, I typically check my email. They go to bed at 8. And then if it's a work night, I'll come back to work. And if it's not, then I will hang out with my husband and bed by 10.
Okay, yeah, nice trick.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to miss something super important or not, but so far I'm loving the whole only check your email once a day thing.
Yeah, it's really probably hard to do when you get really into it, because I know I'm myself like that. I check email regularly, and even the notifications can be pretty disturbing, I guess. So I will definitely remember that. But I have another question relating to being a startup founder. So do you think you can manage time better being on your own, working on your own project, rather than just if you would work like 9 to 5, the usual job?
I think yes, because this business will succeed or fail based on what I do. And so the intensity level is so much higher. For me, I mean, for everyone is different, but like working for myself, and the purpose is so much greater. When I see people working at night for their company, I'm like, like, you don't have any equity in that company. Like, is that really how you want to spend your evenings? Why would you do that? Whereas for me, again, I just have such greater purpose. Like, if this works, it's going to change my life in this really, really meaningful way. And so my entire family, like I said, I check email at night, or like working one night a week. I think everyone can get behind that, because it's just a bigger dream. Like, it's a bigger, it's just a whole different thing.
Yeah, amazing. And I think that's a really great mindset that you have. So yeah, I wish you really all the best. But do you have any advice you would give to other entrepreneurs, founders that are trying on their projects? Do you have any strategy or framework that works?
Yes, I do. I have some suggestions, and my first one is not obvious, but when I was naming Simple File Upload, my first name, I wanted something cutesy like Cloud Mapper, or I don't remember what else. I had Cloud Mapper. And I talked to someone in SEO, a friend of mine, and he said, just name it what it does. And that was great advice, because if you Google file uploading on Heroku, Simple File Upload is the first thing that comes up. And I didn't put any effort into SEO. I got a little bit lucky, but also because that's literally the product name. When people Google Simple File Uploads, my product comes up. So something that had not occurred to me before I named it, but if you're just starting out, like, go for a really obvious name. Also, if you're just starting out, I think if you are working a full-time job and you are trying to build a product on the side, there's a lot, right? Because you have to build the product and you have to figure out how to sell and market the product. And validation, I mean, in our community, pre-validation is a hot topic. Some people are going to tell you should pre-sell. Some people say put up a landing page with email capture. Then you have the Basecamp people who are like, you can't pre-validate. It's a lie. So do whatever you want with that. But I would say The number one mistake we all developers make is we build something before knowing if anyone wants it. So if you are serious about it, make sure someone wants it before you build it. If you just want to build something because you're just itching to have your own project, because maybe you're not fulfilled at work, try to launch it in a marketplace. Shopify. I mean, all these places have marketplaces, and then you have Heroku, Shopify. I think even someone else. Yeah, there's a bunch of marketplaces. So marketplaces give you a built-in traction channel. So start there.
Wow. Yeah. Great insights. And thanks so much, really, for taking your time to chat with us today. I wish you all the best with your projects. And I really hope we can talk again. Hopefully when you're already making $1 million per year.
That's right. That's the plan. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you very much for having me on.